I'm Alexandra Martinez. The coffee burned as it ran down my face, but the sting was nothing compared to the silence that gripped the boardroom. All eyes turned to Barbara, my mother-in-law, who stood there holding the empty cup. Her smirk was ice cold. "Oops," she said sweetly. "It slipped." She thought she'd won, thought this public humiliation would break me. What Barbara didn't know was that I'd been quietly unraveling her secrets for months. Let me take you back 6 months. I married Michael Martinez 3 years ago, knowing his mother would be the hardest part of the deal. Barbara made it clear from the start that I wasn't the wife she'd imagined for her son. A doctor. She'd scoffed at our engagement party. "Shouldn't you be focused on giving Michael children instead of playing career woman?" I'd built my pediatric practice from the ground up, and my work meant everything to me. My patients were my heart, but to Barbara, my career was an insult to her vision of a dutiful Martinez wife. Her legacy was Martinez Manufacturing, a business she inherited from her late husband, and she clung to it as fiercely as she wielded her disdain for me. The women in this family have always devoted themselves to family, not work. She'd remind me at every Sunday dinner, her wine glass never far from her hand. But of course, you wouldn't understand tradition, Alexandra. The tension escalated when Michael was offered the CEO position at Martinez Manufacturing. At dinner, Barbara's eyes sparkled with victory as she announced it. "We'll need to relocate to Boston," she said, her gaze fixed on me. "Alexandra can surely find a small practice there, if she insists on working at all." Michael's face lit up. He'd spent his life chasing his mother's approval, and now it seemed within reach. But my life, my practice, my patience was here. I couldn't just walk away. "We need to talk about this," I told him that night. He nodded, but I could see it in his eyes. His mind was already made up. That's when I started noticing things. Strange discrepancies in the company's public filings. Carelessly discarded papers on Barbara's desk during Sunday dinners. The more I looked, the clearer the pattern became. Something was wrong. I hired a private investigator. "Follow the money," I instructed, writing a check that made my stomach churn. 2 months later, he handed me a folder thick with evidence. Barbara had been embezzling for years, siphoning millions into offshore accounts. I stayed silent, biding my time, collecting more proof. Barbara, oblivious to my efforts, only grew bolder. She started bringing her assistant, Thomas, to family dinners, their whispered conversations halting the moment I entered the room. The board meeting was supposed to be routine, a mere formality to name Michael the new CEO. I arrived prepared, my laptop open, and the evidence secured in my briefcase. Barbara rose to speak, but her announcement blindsided me. "Before we continue, I must address a serious issue," she began. "We've discovered unauthorized transfers from company accounts. Our investigation points to Alexandra Martinez." The room erupted. Michael turned to me, confusion and hurt etched across his face. I started to stand, ready to defend myself, when the scalding liquid hit me. Barbara's cup clattered onto the table. She gasped theatrically, a picture of Fox concern. "Oh dear," she said. "It slipped." I touched my face, the coffee burning my skin. Around me, the board members stared in shock, their expressions a mixture of pity and horror. Barbara thought she'd cornered me, but she'd made a critical error. The security cameras caught everything, and in my briefcase was enough evidence to destroy her. As I left the boardroom, skin still stinging, I pulled out my phone and made the call I'd been rehearsing for weeks. "Mr. Harrison, this is Alexandra Martinez. It's time to file with the SEC. Barbara didn't know it yet, but her reign was over. Revenge doesn't have to be served hot or cold. Sometimes it's served with airtight evidence and federal investigators." The next 48 hours were chaos. My face was blistered, my reputation was under siege, and Michael did what he always did, stood silently by his mother's side. "She's under so much stress," he said that night as I threw clothes into my suitcase. "The company's been struggling, and she just..." "Just what, Michael?" I asked, gesturing to my bandaged cheek. "Just assaulted me in front of the entire board. Just accused me of theft to cover up her own crimes." He flinched. "What crimes?" I pulled out my phone and pressed play on the video. Barbara and Thomas, laughing in her office as they discussed their latest transfer. "Your mother's been stealing from the company for years," I said, my voice cold. "Millions, Michael, and now she's trying to pin it on me. That's absurd, he scoffed, though I caught the flicker of doubt in his eyes. You're just jealous because she's giving me the CEO position. I laughed, bitter and sharp. You think you're getting that position? Check last month's transfer records. She's already promised it to Thomas. The color drained from his face. Thomas? Her assistant? Her lover? I corrected. For the past 2 years. Why do you think he's always at family dinners? Michael stormed out, no doubt heading straight to Barbara. Let him. I had more important things to handle. The next morning, I met with Sarah Chen, the company's head of accounting. She'd been suspicious of Barbara's financial activities for months but lacked proof. These transfers, Sarah whispered, scanning the documents I brought. They matched the discrepancies I found. But Mrs. Martinez threatened to fire me if I kept asking questions. How would you like to help me take her down? I asked. Sarah's eyes gleamed with determination. Tell me what you need. We worked through the night, piecing together every fraudulent transaction. The pattern was undeniable. Barbara had been funneling money into shell companies and offshore accounts, and she made one fatal mistake. She used Thomas's personal laptop for some of the transfers, Sarah said, her voice triumphant. It's still linked to the company network. Can you access it? I asked. Better, Sarah grinned. I can clone it. Meanwhile, Barbara was in full damage control mode. She painted me as unhinged, jealous of her relationship with Michael, resentful of her success. She even filed a police report claiming I'd threatened her. What she didn't know was that I'd already met with the SEC. She didn't know about Thomas's cloned laptop. And she certainly didn't know about the USB drive I planted in her office during last week's Sunday dinner. The next board meeting was set for Friday. Barbara planned to present her evidence against me, confident she held all the cards. But Thursday night, the game shifted. My phone rang. It was Michael. I found the prenup, he said, his voice trembling. The one Mom made me ask you to sign. She altered it after we signed. Added clauses about company loyalty and my inheritance depending on her approval. I know, I replied calmly. Check page 6. A pause, then a sharp intake of breath. These signatures aren't ours. She forged them. Now you're asking the right questions, I said. Alex, he hesitated. What else has she done? I closed my eyes, recalling every insult, every manipulation, every time she tried to make me feel small. Come over, I said. There's something you need to see. As I hung up, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Wind 8. Transfer records, emails, everything. She's selling the company. Thomas is the buyer. A slow smile spread across my face. Barbara thought throwing coffee in my face was a power move. Tomorrow in that same boardroom, I'd show everyone exactly who Barbara Martinez really was. And this time, I'd be the one serving the drinks. Friday morning arrived with a thunderstorm, a fitting prelude for what was about to unfold. I walked into Martinez Manufacturing wearing my sharpest suit, my burned face now a badge of defiance rather than shame. Michael strode beside me, clutching a leather portfolio that held the evidence we'd painstakingly uncovered. The boardroom was packed, tension thick in the air. Barbara sat at the head of the table, her usual place of power. Thomas loomed behind her, his smugness barely concealed. But the moment her gaze landed on me walking in beside Michael, her smirk faltered. What is she doing here? Barbara demanded, half rising from her chair. After her criminal actions. Sit down, Mother. Michael's voice cut through her tirade, cold and firm. You'll want to hear this. As Barbara sank back into her seat, I connected my laptop to the projector. She immediately launched into her performance, her voice oozing authority. Members of the board, as I reported last week, we've uncovered deeply troubling evidence of embezzlement. Actually, I interrupted, my voice steady as I clicked my presentation to life. We have. The screen lit up with a cascade of transaction records, emails, and incriminating photos. I watched as Barbara's face went from pale to ashen, her confidence unraveling with each piece of evidence I presented. For the past 3 years, I began my tone cutting. Barbara Martinez has systematically embezzled over $12 million from this company, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. The room was deathly silent as I played an audio recording from Thomas's laptop. Barbara's voice echoed through the room, cold and calculating. Once Alexandra's out of the picture, she said, laughing, we'll transfer everything to your name. The board won't know what hit them. Thomas shifted uneasily, his eyes darting toward the exit. But two SEC agents, stationed there at my request, stepped forward, blocking his escape. You can't prove any of this, Barbara snapped, her voice trembling as her hands reached for her water glass, probably wishing it were something stronger. Actually, we can, Sarah said, stepping forward with a confidence that matched my own. She placed a thick stack of files on the table. Every transaction, every forged document, every secret meeting, it's all here, including the sale contract you were planning to spring on the board next week. Barbara lunged for the documents in desperation. In her panic, she knocked over her water glass, sending papers and water sprawling across the table, a perfect echo of Monday's coffee incident. This time, I was ready. I stepped back and let her flounder. Mrs. Martinez, one of the SEC agents said, stepping forward, you're under investigation for securities fraud, embezzlement, and multiple counts of forgery. This is absurd. Barbara shrieked, her veneer of control shattered. Michael, tell them your wife is lying. But Michael stood firm, his expression resolute. It's over, Mom. I've seen everything, including what you've done to my inheritance, my marriage, and this company. As the agents escorted Barbara from the room, she turned to glare at me, her mascara streaking down her face. You planned this? She hissed. You vindictive little. No, Barbara, I said, cutting her off with a calmness that only years of resilience could bring. You did this to yourself. I just made sure everyone else saw it too. The fallout was swift. Barbara and Thomas were arrested, and the board unanimously appointed Michael as interim CEO, with Sarah as CFO. As for me, my medical practice thrived, and I joined the company's board part-time. Turns out, you can have both a career and a family legacy, despite what Barbara always believed. Last week, I visited Barbara in prison. She looked diminished, her designer outfits replaced by the harsh orange of prison attire. Why? She asked, her voice hollow. You could have just walked away. I touched my healed cheek, recalling the sting of her coffee, the years of veiled insults, and the near destruction of everything I'd worked for. Because some people need to learn that actions have consequences, I said, meeting her gaze without flinching. And coffee stains, Barbara? They leave a mark. As I left the prison, my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Mom signed the divorce papers. The company's stock transfer is complete. We're free. I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's rebuilding something stronger from the ruins your enemies tried to create. And Barbara? She has 15 years to contemplate that over prison coffee.